This is Midwest Moxie, a show about our region's visionary entrepreneurs and the experiences that shape them. I'm your host, Kathleen Gallagher, Executive Director of Five Lakes Institute. Theresa Reno-Weber saw right away that GoodMaps, which had been developed to help blind and low-sighted people navigate indoor spaces, had enormous potential for sighted people as well. So she jumped in, first as Chief Operating Officer, then as CEO, and has been expanding its reach ever since. The Louisville company's navigation platform, developed by the American Printing House for the Blind, provides turn-by-turn directions in train stations, airports, and other indoor spaces. GoodMaps has 28 employees and has raised $13 million. Theresa is joining us today with Anne Lancaster, Chief Officer for Innovation and Strategy at the American Printing House for the Blind, a more than 150-year-old organization that creates and provides educational materials and assistive products for the blind and visually impaired, and which spun out GoodMaps in 2019. Theresa and Anne, welcome to Midwest Moxie.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks, Kathleen.
Theresa, you joined GoodMaps in 2022 just as it was starting to think about expanding its technology and reach. Your unique set of work experiences really played into that. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so thank you, Kathleen, again for having us. And, I got my career start actually as an officer in the United States Coast Guard, and very quickly saw how technology could be used to help save lives. From search and rescue to migrant interdiction to drug ops, technology is at the core of everything I did very early in my career. And then as I transitioned out, I was fortunate enough to work in amazing global organizations like McKinsey and Company, where I was a strategic consultant who could really see the bigger strategic picture of helping organizations increase their operational efficiency, increase their reach, increase their impact in the world, whether that was private sector institutions or government-led or social service organizations, which then took me into local city government and into Metro United Way. So I've kind of been across the gamut of sectors, but again, always seeing how technology could be used to either save or improve lives. And so when I had the opportunity to come into GoodMaps, which had been really focused initially on helping blind and low vision individuals be able to navigate the indoors confidently and independently, it was very clear to me that if we could help a blind person find their way indoors, we could help all of us. And so blending kind of my background and my passion for policy and that curb cut effect, right? When you do one thing for one group and then it can serve all, I was very excited that the team was open to, and the board, the investors and others saw also the potential for this to expand the aperture on who we were serving.
Well, Anne, tell us about that. It's amazing. This 150-year-old nonprofit spun out this company to wayfinding, I guess you call it, to provide indoor wayfinding. What was the impetus for doing that?
Well, I think it was 150 years of impetus, if you want to get right to it. I mean, it's really just been building on what our core mission has been all along, which is making sure that blind people have access to the things that they need to learn and to earn and to enjoy life, right? And so, as past 20 years, we've kind of started shifting very slowly from things like embossed braille and maps that you can touch and feel. And, we still have a lot of these businesses, but technology was changing everything. And the possibilities of technology to provide access for blind and visually impaired people and for students too was really becoming more and more of a thing. So we have a research and development team here at APH. A lot of it is creating the technology that doesn't exist or the adaptations. It could have been created so that everybody was included in the beginning, but it wasn't. So our research and development team was looking at all the different ways that we could approach the technology that already existed or new technology and solve those problems. And I have to say, very early on, there were blind pioneers who understood navigation was important. I've seen pictures of these folks back in the 80s, and they were strapping satellite dishes to their back and walking around with a giant brick laptop, trying to figure out how they could use technology to get around. And so at the time, they were looking at that here at the American Printing House. We had the head of that R&D was blind, had several people who were blind on the staff, and they started working on what now seems to be very primitive version of what we have for GoodMaps now, which required you to install beacons all over the place on walls. And it worked. and everyone could see the future. We knew that what we had was still kind of clunky and they could see the future, but it was going to take a heavy lift to get it where it needed to be. And also a heavy lift to map indoor spaces. The largest area on the earth that is not mapped is the indoors, right? So that was a big thing. It was something we didn't want to distract from our mission, but that we also felt was very important. So we wanted to spin it off, not just because we needed someone to really get in there and focus and take it on hard, but also because we wanted other investors. We wanted other minds coming to the table. We wanted the mainstream coming to the table. We didn't want this just to happen within the tiny little world of a nonprofit organization. We wanted to bring everybody in.
Enter Theresa. You walked into this beacon system where you had to set up these little beacons, signal transmitting beacons throughout a building to give signals. And within a year, you had changed the whole tech stack. Tell us about how you did that.
Well, it wasn't just me, and they were already sort of on a path. So I will say the team very quickly recognized from where Anne and I think American Printing House had started that there were two issues with beacon technology, right? One, you have to install and maintain these beacons and sensors. And so from a customer standpoint, and our customer are the venues, right? So whether it's an airport or a train station or a mall or an event space, those venues didn't actually want to have to install and maintain all of these beacons and sensors everywhere. That was one barrier. Another challenge of that, and actually the more critical challenge that the team sought to overcome, was the fact that the accuracy of beacons and sensors, even today, is at best 3 to 5 feet of accuracy, but most often 20 to 30 feet of accuracy. If you're a blind individual, that feels like an ocean away from where you're trying to get to. And so we really leaned in to say, how do we get people within an arm's length of their destination so they can reach out and touch the door handle to the bathroom or the elevator button or the water fountain? And so the team had been set to an R&D mission to really develop a computer vision model that did not require the installation of any hardware or software or QR codes or sensors, and could get to that level of accuracy. The other thing that we did once I arrived was to really look at, everything we'd been doing had been kind of like auditory only. It wasn't visual at all for other needs. So whether you were sighted but deaf or neurodiverse or had limited mobility, or like I often say, we're just directionally challenged, which is, I think, everyone when you get into a complex indoor space, there really wasn't a great user experience for the masses. And so what we really launched within, about a year of me arriving was a completely new tech stack that had all of those other accessibility features and components for more universal accessibility while keeping the core on making sure that it's always optimized for the needs of blind and low vision individuals. And to Anne's point, by having it be more universally and commercially accessible, it makes it so that any space that a blind or low vision individual is going to find themselves in could potentially be a good mapped location. And that's really the mission we're on now.
So let's talk about, say, an airport, right? You've got airports as customers. You go in and you use LiDAR, this light detection and ranging technology. Your technicians go in and scan the whole building, right?
Yeah. I mean, I often tell people, if you have seen the Google cars moving around your neighborhood in the past, right? This was the equivalent of what a GoodMaps surveyor is doing. And it used to be actually that they had like that exoskeleton on their back walking through these spaces. Now technology has advanced and there's a handheld device that looks like a thermos basically. And our surveyors walk through and with that LiDAR technology are capturing all of the unique architectural feature points and visual interest elements within an indoor space. That's what we've trained our computer vision model on. It allows us to create incredibly accurate and high fidelity digital blueprints for our customers that are commercial grade, to the millimeter of accuracy. But that means that we are making sure that people can navigate around stanchions and curved walls and all of the nooks and crannies that sometimes get missed when you're maybe creating a map for a sighted audience.
And how would they navigate? With their phone?
Yep. So we have a couple of different ways that folks can use the GoodMaps platform now. The core feature is free to download on any of your app stores, Android or iOS, the GoodMaps Indoor Navigation app. You can download that and very quickly go through a tutorial of how to use it, and then open up and see the closest locations to you. If you're near a GoodMaps location, it'll automatically ask you if you want to check in. And if you're not, it'll show you a tab to explore our maps, and you can see all the closest ones to you, destinations for yourself. The other way that folks can use the technology is we now have web maps that are on our customers' websites often. So whether it's the airport webpage or the museum's website, a link or a QR code when you walk into the space, if they want to make that available to you, and you can get a visual view of the map. And you can even do route previews from where you are that gives you kind of a turn-by-turn route preview if you don't want all of the features of the app. But if you're using the app, it will give you everything from haptics to voice commands to visual cues to augmented reality arrows. There really is something for everyone.
Your customers are the indoor locations. They're not the people using the app. What do they tell you most? Why do they want to buy it?
Yeah, there's a range of things available to benefit these indoor locations. So on one hand, there is the accessibility requirements that are in place in a lot of countries that we're working within. We're actually available now in 16 different countries. And spaces like the UK and Canada and Europe have pretty high mandates for digital accessibility that require that these spaces provide the same information that a sighted person would have to blind and low vision individuals. And so from just a pure regulatory requirement, that's something that we help our customers meet. But more and more what we're hearing is that airports, train stations, event venues want to provide a seamless and enhanced visitor or customer experience. This is also a way for folks to be able to continue to help their visitors find what they need quickly without having to spend the cost of hiring folks who we just don't have enough of anymore.
Anne, how do you feel about this, that not only is this now helpful to the blind, but it's helping sighted people as well?
I'm not surprised. I mean, that's what we have seen throughout history, is that when you design for everyone and you look at the needs of everyone from the get-go, then the people that you didn't mean to serve will be served. And if we go back, like just in APH's history, when we had talking books, at that time you had the 78 RPM records, right? They went way too fast. If you want to put an audiobook on that, it was like over before you even got through the first page or two. So we helped to innovate the 33 and a third record, which became the standard for music. You also see that with things like curb cuts. Nobody wanted to do curb cuts at the time, but now that they've done them for accessibility, I use them for my suitcase. I know moms use them for strollers, and closed captions. Whenever I'm on a treadmill, it's closed captions. I'm not deaf, but they work for me too. So we've seen that happen over and over again. And I think it's something we knew when we spun GoodMaps off. We knew that it would, even though we couldn't see the technology yet, we knew that eventually, if we started here, it was going to be something big for everybody, because that is just the pattern.
And Theresa, speaking of big, how big can this become? What do you see for the future of GoodMaps?
Oh, I mean, we are so excited right now. We actually just became an Endeavor company, which if anybody knows anything about Endeavor Global, they are a group of individuals who have been successful entrepreneurs and founders who've created, billion-dollar companies, right? Billion-dollar plus companies with major exits. And they vet and evaluate startup companies and entrepreneurs for the next big thing. And GoodMaps was just identified as one of these companies that has the potential to, reach that billion-dollar valuation status and exit status. So from a financial standpoint, we do think we're on that rapid acceleration. My vision is that GoodMaps technology becomes as ubiquitous as GPS and Google Maps is outdoors. So for indoor navigation, you may not know that you're using GoodMaps backbone technology. We want to have this kind of embedded and available to support a host of things beyond even our own app. And we've got an SDK, a software development kit that's in the works right now that we think will be the backbone for other companies, apps, developers to be able to use that technology in the same way that GPS has become so valuable for more than its original intent.
It's such an amazing story. And, just the idea of this 150 plus year old organization continuing to innovate, what an inspiration. Thank you so much, you guys, for sharing your story.
Thank you for having us.
You can read more about today's guest by visiting wuwm.com. Don't forget, you can also listen to the show as a podcast if you'd like to take us on the go. Just search for Midwest Moxie, that's MOXIE, wherever you listen to your podcasts. I'm your host, Kathleen Gallagher. Midwest Moxie was created by executive producer Audrey Nowakowski and me. Today's episode was produced by Audrey Nowakowski and engineered by WUWM's Jason Reevey. Join us next Sunday at 7 p.m. to hear from more visionary Midwestern founders building innovative companies. That's right here on 89.7 WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR. Support for Midwest Moxie comes from Microsoft, whose efforts to drive technology development across the Midwest and beyond include its National TechSpark community engagement work, which started in Wisconsin, its role as co-founder of Titletown Tech in Green Bay, and its new AI co-innovation lab at University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. More information is available at Microsoft.com. Support also comes from Quarles, a multidisciplinary AM Law 200 firm with approximately 550 attorneys who support large and small businesses, from Fortune 500 companies to startups and entrepreneurs across the country. More at Quarles.com.